Hi, everybody. Welcome to Harrison College's Career Success webcast series. My name is Dave Borum, and today's topic is long-term career fit. You ever noticed how some people find a job they love and stay there year after year, and other people don't seem to ever really settle in or find a good job fit? What is it that makes a career or job a good fit for the long haul? Some people think it might be money, or maybe a growing field or industry. Of course, the benefits that come along with the job are important. Be prestige and status, even vacation or time off. And all of these things are important, but the more I talk to people about why they love or hate or ambivalent about their jobs, I'm seeing the importance of what I call our personal values. So what do I mean by values? There seems to be a lot of confusion about the difference between our values and other things, and so now I distinguish between virtues and values. Virtues could be thought of as commitments or traits that are commonly held in a community by its members. We all tend to expect everyone to be kind or honest or respectful, and I know we don't all live up to these ideals, but it's common to expect everyone to pursue these virtues. Values, on the other hand, are far more specific and unique to the individual. They're sort of like an internal fingerprint or genetic makeup that defines what is most important to you as an individual. Personal values are shared by some other people, but not by everyone. When we work with people who share our values, we tend to enjoy ourselves more, we tend to feel more energized, and we tend to feel more comfortable and safe and at home. A few years ago, I went through an exercise to help me surface some of my personal values, and some of the things that are on the list surprised me. I've listed a few here, things like conversation, creativity, even playfulness. I don't expect everyone to share these in common with me, but when I can express them, I find that I'm more satisfied. And when I can't, I feel stifled, less fulfilled. Here's an analogy for you. When you use your computer, whether you know it or not, you're using both an application and an operating system. Application are things like Microsoft Word or Excel, Internet Explorer, and these are the things we use every time we're on the computer. The operating system is something like Windows XP and the Apple system. It's what makes the whole computer work, but quietly and underneath the surface of the specific application we're using. We don't think much about our operating system unless there's a problem. It just goes into operation and makes things happen. And our personal values are kind of like that. We're doing all kinds of things every day. We tend to keep our focus on accomplishing what we set out to do. And so typically, we're not even aware that our personal values or how they're operating until something goes wrong, or there's a problem or a conflict. Then, like our computer, we start asking new questions of why it's not working and start to pay attention to some of the deeper programming in our lives. It's kind of ironic, but often we see what our values are when there's a values conflict. All of a sudden, you become aware that you're feeling anxious or angry, or concerned about something, or how someone is doing something. And if you really think about it, you can often trace it to a set of values that you and the other person or the circumstance don't share in common. I have a close friend who went through a really painful experience with her previous boss. And she's come to the conclusion that relational integrity is a really high value for her. And so she's determined from this point forward to never work for what she describes as a non-relational leader. Can't you see how that helps her to define some of the deeper features of what makes up a good long-term fit for her would be? So where can you get started to begin identifying your personal values? Values, by definition, as I'm defining them here, are highly personal. I think because of that, they are a little more nuanced and difficult for some of us to spell out. So it takes some thoughtful, honest evaluation of what is really important to us, not what we think we should matter, what matters to someone else, whether it's our husband or wife or mom or dad or our boss, not taking our clues from them, but the question is what matters most deeply to you. There's a helpful framework that you've maybe seen before that breaks up the whole world of work into 6 career domains: the realistic, investigative, artistic, social, enterprising, and conventional domain. Each of these can be used as a starting point for thinking about certain values that are found in these areas. For instance, people who are more realistic might value things like tradition, practicality, common sense, reliability, ruggedness, persistence. If you're more investigative, you might value independence, curiosity, learning, insightfulness, achievement, being analytical. Artistic people may value things like beauty, originality, independence, imagination, and expressiveness. People who might be described as more oriented towards social concerns tend to value things like cooperation, generosity, service, helpfulness, concern, empathy. Enterprising people may value risk-taking, status, competition, influence, adventure, and confidence. And finally, if you're more conventional, you might value accuracy, stability, efficiency, organization, systematizing. Now, few of us fit exclusively into these categories, but it provides a useful starting point to begin thinking about the deeper question of long-term fit and what's most important to you. So what can you do next? There's no simple roadmap, but here are a few things to help get you started. First, start by writing. And I know a lot of us have an aversion to writing things down, but a few years ago, I got one of these little journal books and just started writing things that I felt prompted to think about. And values, because they tend to cut across our personal and our professional lives, sometimes starting with our personal lives is a good clue to explore what they are and what's important to you. See, we tend to play a role at work and can sometimes lose touch with what is really important to us. So sometimes a simple question like, if I wasn't limited by time or money, what would I do? And then thinking about, what does that really say about what's important to me as you jot down some of those thoughts? That's a great starting point. And just start making lists. I find that just making lists about this question and coming back and seeing repeating themes and patterns of what comes to the surface is really a great way to get started. Another area to think about is what you've done or accomplished that makes you most proud or is personally gratifying. Sometimes it's something that may not mean anything to anyone else, but that you look back 5 years, 10 years, 20 years ago, it's symbolic of what really matters most in your life then and now. For instance, when I turned 50, my wife bought me art lessons at community art school. I learned that I actually have a little bit of talent and that I love to paint. I don't care if anything ever comes of it. I'm just proud that I tried something new that I'd never done before, and I learned something new. Whenever I remember that, it helps me to clarify a few of my most important values. Finally, you can use a list like this one. This is one that's on the Career Services website in the LRC in the values section. It's not exhaustive, but reading through it and just circling the values that stand out to you is a good starting place. Afterwards, you might get more specific, put these in your own words, and then kind of unpeel like, well, why is that most important to me? Or examples of that. That can be a great starting point. As I said earlier, our values are some of the most powerful clues as to what makes any job or career a good fit for us. You see, we tend to live out of our lives unconsciously and often do so in a sort of trial and error fashion. That's okay when we're younger and exploring. It's good to try a lot of things and check things off the list we don't like as much as we do. But as we get older, I think it's more crucial to become more conscious and to make choices that are consistent with our values, both personally and professionally. And that will really assist us in finding a job or a career that's a good long-term fit.